All right, it is Figgie and the Moose here on this Tuesday on Pix 11 Plus. Marc, Malusis, Nelson, Figueroa. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be. How are you, Figgie?
Sounds like the Truman Show over here. That's and just in case I don't see you later, good evening.
That's it. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Well, not much when you look at the two baseball teams off. We'll get into some of the Alonso stuff and obviously the brilliance of Judge and some of the Yankee issues here moving forward after what we saw in that series over the weekend against the Boston Red Sox. The latest and greatest around the New York Knicks is that, there seems to be mutual interest reportedly. Conflicting reports about whether or not Dallas would allow Jason Kidd to go out there and speak to the New York Knicks. But, you look at it, he's Summers in the Hamptons, former Knick. I think he belongs to a golf club out in the Hamptons. I won't name the one, but I was told that he does and has a house out there. But so he's out there in the summers. He was a little bit bothered that he was not involved in the Luka deal. Ownership change down there in Dallas. And, it's the bright lights and it's the big city of New York. And obviously, if you can deliver this team a championship for the first time since 1973, that would be appealing. Oh, yeah, by the way, they're probably going to pay you a king's ransom after they fired Tom Thibodeau with 3 years and $30 million left on his contract extension that he just agreed to last year. So will it get done? I mean, who knows? I mean, so, it's great that they have interest in him. That's fantastic. They were also interested in Ime Udoka, interested in Chris Finch. This was a name that was thrown out there early on. A former New York Knick was here for that great season in 2013 when they won 54 games, right? I believe it was. Yes. So you look at it. Listen, do I think he ends up here? I don't know. I really don't, because I think the reporting's been all over the place in terms of whether or not Dallas would allow him to actually leave with 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? You can covet whatever you want to covet. Doesn't mean it's going to be yours. And there could be mutual interest on both sides, but there's a team that's standing in the way, ownership group that's standing in the way. This is a team who made a trade that they feel has made them better. Nico Harrison very famously said, defense wins championships. They have the first pick overall right now. Do you really think they want to start over with a head coach as well? Like scrap everything and just go? Jason Kidd, I could see him being like, you know what, I want out of here. But if he wanted out of here, he would have requested out well before, this offseason started, or going to start, I should say. But I get it. Mutual interest is nice. It's good to be coveted and all those things. And you can see obvious reasons why he would fit. He took them to the finals just 2 years ago. Dallas, of course, a player with the mindset of what the players like, what could work, maybe being able to unlock guys at a different way than Tom Thibodeau has. His success was his success. You make the playoffs 4 out of 5 years and, are 6 games away from a title and you're being shown the door. It's kind of harsh. And the expectation levels, of course, are going to be that high. But a guy like Jason Kidd can handle that kind of expectation level. But when you really think about it, you've got to not really like somebody to pay them $30 million to go away. I mean, $30 million.
Yeah, I mean, right. To you and I, that's a lot of money. If you're a billionaire, it's kind of like a drop in the bucket. To be honest with you, he doesn't necessarily care. I mean, I've been told he doesn't necessarily care about the $30 million. I don't know if it's necessarily, a hatred or dislike. I think it's more a case of that he didn't feel like the team was going to get better, and he would listen to a number of the players' gripes after the season and, minutes police and all of that. Right. Is going to get better. But, what exactly is going to change with Kidd? And you could easily make the argument, listen, we're both native New Yorkers, and it was an unbelievable Knick playoff run. But you could easily make the argument with the Dallas Mavericks and the Knicks, if you're comparing rosters, Dallas is a little bit more appealing to me because of the opportunity to go out there and coach a generational talent in Cooper Flagg.
Right.
With you. And I'm not telling you that there's not a draw to Madison Square Garden. I get it. And the West is obviously decidedly stronger top to bottom than the Eastern Conference. And the path will be significantly easier to get through the East. But you're still going to have to face a team coming out of the West in those NBA finals in order to go out there and win a championship. Because as we know from the statement, the Knicks' singular focus right now is winning an NBA title. But all these people, everyone that's like, wow, there's interest and, he wants the job or he'd rather coach in New York. Well, you've got a guy that some people are saying is the best NBA prospect to come out of college or come into the NBA draft in the better part of 20 years.
Yeah.
And that guy is now going to be a Dallas Maverick, whereas they have the number 1 overall pick. Isn't that a draw if you're a head coach as well, to be able to work with that kind of a talent in Cooper Flagg, who we've known about since he was 14?
Yeah, I would say it has to be, right, because you are immediately linked up with this immense talent, generational type talent. But here's the other thing: you got AD, who's always hurt.
Right.
You got Kyrie coming off of a torn ACL.
True.
I get it. There's Cooper Flagg, and how much can Cooper Flagg do for you to take you? Is he going to take you to the NBA Finals here in the next 2 years? Or the Knicks roster has a better chance with the East being as weak as they are?
No, probably the Knicks roster, but I think I have higher.
He's only got 2 years left on his deal, right? Jason Kidd
contract for sure. But I would make the argument that the ceiling for Cooper Flagg is higher than,
no doubt,
than with anybody, even with a Jalen Brunson, given just kind of what he is as an NBA prospect, because we saw him at Duke, and I think he's going to be like ridiculously good, like in the NBA. There's not really any sort of a weakness to his game, going right, going left, can hit free throws, can hit threes, can go out there and defend, willing defend.
I was going to say, and he plays D.
And he plays D, right? He goes out there and plays defense, right? So it's all of those things. I mean, he's going to whine and cry, but that's just what the NBA player or professional player goes out there and does. And college players are obviously semi-pro with the amount of money they're being able to make. It's a fair point when you look at it. I'm not a huge Kyrie fan, but clearly Kidd and Kyrie have built this relationship. I'm not a huge Anthony Davis fan. I guess the draw of Flagg. Right. And if he stays healthy and he's going to be this kind of transformational, transcendental kind of talent in the NBA, the draw of that to me is pretty engaging. Now, there's other things that come into factor as well, right? I mean, there's quality of lifestyle, the amount of money you're going out there and get paid. Remember, there's no state income tax in Texas. There is in New York. I mean, he might like the draw of Madison Square Garden. The East is obviously significant. I'm not telling you that he shouldn't be interested in the Knicks. I think it's an interesting conversation when you get down to it. Which job is obviously the more appealing job? Because I'll be honest with you, if he reaches a deal with the New York Knicks, and Dallas gives him permission, and he's the next Knicks head coach, that Dallas job is going to be very, very enticing. It's going to be interesting to see if they stay in-house and who exactly gets that job moving forward for the Mavericks.
They get Tom Thibodeau, and he takes him to the championship. Anyway.
Oh my God, imagine that. But it would be utterly amazing.
Right? It would be the Knicks kind of thing, right? So here's where I think Jason Kidd is doing exactly what he needs to do, because it's called leverage, right? The Knicks have no leverage because they don't have a head coach. Jason Kidd has all the leverage in the world because all he says is, I have interest. There's mutual interest. And he puts out that rumor. Well, you know what? We'll thwart that really quickly is that the Dallas Mavericks say, hey, there's no chance. And we just gave Jason Kidd a 3-year extension.
Yeah. Then where do you go?
But that's exactly it. Oh, exactly. For the Knicks, you're screwed. But for Jason Kidd, I'm sorry. Johnny Bryant is going to come in. Johnny Bryant is going to save the day. Right. But so Jason Kidd is the one that you covet, and I love it, because for Jason Kidd, all I got to do is say, yeah, it sounds very attractive. She is a good-looking woman. It's your wife. I get it, but I'm not going anywhere. And exactly what you want is you're going to get that extension. You're going to get that buy-in from the ownership group, because as of right now, it's only 2 years, and you've got damaged goods sitting on your hands and the possibility of a generational talent. Now you've got to make it work, right? We've heard this about what happened with Brunson. He's getting too many touches. He's getting the ball too much. Everything is catered to Jalen Brunson. Because with Tom Thibodeau. So you don't think that that's going to be what they want out of Cooper Flagg? Is he's going to be the one that's getting the ball and doing all the things?
Yeah, no. Listen, I think he will. I think it's fascinating. So we'll see how it plays out. It's great that there's mutual interest, especially here in New York. That story has overshadowed anything that we've seen in the NBA Finals, and you would expect it to be, given the way a week ago that Tom Thibodeau was let go and the statement issued by the New York Knicks, and then the conflicting reports about who led and made the decision to fire the head coach. We have a little bit more clarity about that. And now whether or not there was a game plan. There was. The game plan is basically let's try to see if we can go get somebody that already has a job. I mean, that's the Knicks game plan. So there wasn't great visionary. There wasn't some great assistant. It wasn't like,
exactly.
Johnny Bryant's going to get the job in Phoenix. We got to fire Tibbs and hire Johnny Bryant. If they wanted to hire Johnny Bryant, I think he's outside Madison Square Garden. I think he'd take the job. I mean, I think Johnny Bryant would take the job.
Please tell me there's a basketball savant somewhere in an MSG basement that they're like Eric Spoelstra was, right? Went from the video guy to an assistant coach to a junior assistant to a head assistant, all those different things that he had to climb, before he got that job of the big three. Right? Remember the first year job. Hey, we're going to bring in LeBron, D. Wade, and Chris Paul, and we're going to give them this first year coach who started out as our video guy. Like, that's visionary right there. That's a Pat Riley move where you're like, oh, what the hell? Why wouldn't you why would Riley come in and take over as the head coach? It'd be easy, right? So I don't see that kind of vision anywhere. We're hearing, we like what the other teams have. We want one of those. And then at the end of the day, when it doesn't work out and you see kid gets this extension, is like, where do we go from here? I mean, Bill Belichick has a job. So
right. Somebody connected to the NBA, when I mentioned that idea, he said, I shudder at the idea that they don't get kids. So we'll see exactly where the Knicks go and what the game plan is. I don't know if anyone out there necessarily caught it. I'm a little bit of a geek with these kind of things, but I watched Pacome Dadier get interviewed by Frederick Weiss on French TV.
Nice.
So because I wanted to see what the rookie had to say about Thibodeau. Like, we know that there were some, and I doubt he wasn't one of the guys that got interviewed by James Dolan. They weren't going to the French rookie first year in the NBA. But Dadier gave a glowing review. I mean, I just saw a couple snippets. I didn't watch the entire. But Dadier gave a nice review of Tom Thibodeau, saying that he's appreciative of his head coach. Taught him a lot, the hard work, and provided a great foundation for him. It was hard and was tough on him, but provided a great foundation for him to build off of here moving forward. So for all those that want to say that he doesn't go out there and develop the rookies or anything like that, and this is not going out there just completely and utterly defending Tom Thibodeau, but there is a method to the madness as well, Figgy, and this playing baseball is. Just because you might have the talent doesn't necessarily mean you have the knowledge or the foundation to go out there and perform in the NBA, especially when you're going up against elite level players.
Yeah, so I mean, I could speak to that immensely. When I first got to the big leagues, I had Buck Showalter as my manager. And so watching how Buck Showalter, the preparation involved from spring training to everyday basis, Buck Showalter, the one knock on him, and I had him, back in 2000, so you're talking over 20 years ago. The one knock on him always was that he was over the top with being in control of everything. He was over the top, but the level of preparation that we saw, even when we saw him with the Mets, all these years later, they glowed about how he's never going to be out coached or out managed because of the preparation that's involved. So that was my baseline of like, I better come to the ballpark ready to go, knowing my plays, knowing my pickoff plays, knowing what I have to do in every situation. And yes, I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to learn right away how to play the game the right way, how to do things the right way. And I think that stuck with me most of my career. I went from him right to Larry Boa, another guy who everybody talks about how difficult it was to play for him, how taxing it was, because both on and off the field, he's constantly challenging you. So if you can get past those two guys, and a coach like Thibodeau will set that foundation. Jalen Brunson thrived in it, right? He was the guy that he was almost like a mini Thibodeau. They said, he would run the practices, and if we didn't do it right, we did it over and over and over again. That's the way that, Jalen Brunson really flourished and became who he is. When he left the Mavs, he was begging for a deal to stay with the Mavs. What was it, a 4-year, $55 million deal he wanted? And they were like, no way. And then the Knicks gave him a much better deal. He came into the Knicks, and the rest is history. So I think, having a head coach like that to help establish, like we talk about all the time, culture and identity, right? Two things that you want to have. They've done that to a point. And now when you bring in all these outside guys, and they're not used to it, where you have Bridges who wasn't used to it. You have, Karl Anthony Towns didn't like it the first go around that he had Tibbs. So you can see kind of the writing on the wall where the majority of the players, because again, it's 12 players on the roster, majority of the players had a gripe. There's always something that they could say. And even if you're saying it like for improvement, like, what would be, maybe if he did this more, maybe if he did that more, and that's seen as a complaint rather than constructive criticism, which players are supposed to take. Why shouldn't the head coach take it?
Yeah, it's a legit, right. What's legitimate, what seems personal, you got to weigh through it. I also find it fascinating. And listen, it's water under the bridge. Tibbs is gone, right? So, but I do think that there's a method to his madness in the way that he goes about his business, even though, some people want to think that they know more basketball than he does, which is just not true. I mean,
right.
Thibodeau's forgotten more basketball than either you or I will ever know. I mean, that's
no doubt
the case and that goes to any sport when you're looking at it. I mean, it really is. The guys that live it, breathe it every single day. I do find it fascinating before we go to timeout and take a quick break, Figgy. Brunson and Hart podcast yet? No, very quiet. Very quiet. We got a tweet from Josh Hart.
There's not a lot of Wi-Fi in Cancun.
Yeah, well, I mean, but they, I saw that they had promised that they were going to do a podcast after each round of the NBA playoffs. That round is come and gone. We're already, Wednesday night is game 3 of the NBA finals, and no Brunson and no Josh Hart podcast. It's something to think about. Not saying that, listen, I'm sure Brunson's upset, and you never want to go on the mic when you're upset.
No.
Because you might say something that you're going to regret. So I get it, but I find that fascinating as well. Something to think about kind of when you're looking at everything that's going on. He's Nelson Figueroa. I'm Marc Malusis. It's Figgie and the Moose. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Yankees and Mets on this Tuesday right here on Pix 11 Plus. Welcome back. It's Figgie and the Moose right here on Pix 11 Plus. Marc Malusis, Nelson Figueroa. Make sure to check us out each and every night at 7 o'clock on Sports Nation Nightly on Pix 11. We talk all things New York sports and mix in some national stuff here or there and some great local interviews with Perry Sook and Kate and Joe do a fantastic job for the show as well. A great team effort in the sports department each and every night for you, our New York audience. Figgy, let's talk a little Mets. Let's talk a little Yankees. Obviously, the Mets right now, best record in the National League. Steamrolling a little bit. There's no doubt. Coming off the series against the Colorado Rockies, Alonso has thrown himself into the MVP conversation. And for Pete, give him a ton of credit. And there were a number of Mets last night out at Citi Field for the poker tournament for Jeff McNeil and for his charity. And, Alonso, the work that he did during the course of the offseason, how tough it was a year ago for him, even with the team's success. It was capped off with the home run off Devin Williams in the playoffs. Which kind of jump-started them, then getting eliminated. Tough 6-game series against the Dodgers in the National League Championship Series. Alonso was not a guy that didn't have the marketplace that he was looking for. I'll tell you, that marketplace has changed. I'm not saying that screaming and holler that you got to go out there and sign Alonso now because I think that'd be foolish by the Mets, and I don't think the Mets are dumb. Right. So they're not going to all of a sudden give Alonso everything he wants when he's on a heater and he's an MVP candidate in the National League. Like, let's be realistic. Just like Alonso wasn't going to sign an extension on the cheap when he's having a really bad year. Like, so both things are true, right? When you feel good for Alonso, though, because flew under the radar. It was all about Soto. Then it's Lindor, then it's Cohen. Then it's Stearns. Then it's the pitching lab. Then it's Mendoza and relationships and all this stuff. And they got lost in the wash. But here he is having an unbelievable season, and you got to feel good for the longtime Met.
Yeah, and this is something that I think, in this day and age of professional sports doesn't get talked about enough. Like when you want to be in one place and you state that, and technically lose your leverage because you rave about how happy you are to be in the place that you're at. And I know it's the richest owner in baseball, and you kind of want to make that known and see if he'll jump and he'll bite at that kind of lure. But Pete's genuine with it. Like, Pete has loved his time with the Mets. He has loved the fan base from day one. He's been a culture changer when he came in and, changed it from LGM to LFGM. And everybody was like, oh, my God, this is the guy. Like, he gets it. He gets us. Went out there and broke the rookie home run record, went out there and just a prolific home run hitter to the extent that, did it in 500 plus games less than David Wright. So that tells you exactly, what kind of power we're talking about in this day and age of, strikeouts or all or nothing. Pete is seemingly getting the game to slow down and being able to hit the ball all over the field. Is hitting the ball to right field and taking advantage of RBI situations, not leaving guys out there. And again, Juan Soto hasn't been great with the bat right now, but he's been getting on base. He's been scoring runs ahead of Pete Alonso. He's got almost, I think he has over 50 runs scored already in this season. So that's a huge plus where you have a guy that's always getting on. And, it's just been fun to watch Pete. He struggles at times with the defense. He gets in his own head a little bit. He had a couple of bad throws, but then we'll make one play that gets him right back on track. And I'm liking the fact that his slumps, we saw him go through that little bit of a slump for about 2 weeks, and then he picked it right back up. His slumps are looking a little bit smaller. We see him not with the big chase, the big strikeout numbers that we saw from last year. And, like with everything, like you just said, all the storylines and all the attention being scattered away, he can just be. And I think that's the biggest thing, because last year the storyline was, where is he going to go? Is he going to stay? Oh my God, he's struggling. Oh, the pressure of, a contract and all those different things. You know what? He went to bed after he signed that deal to come back to the Mets, took a deep breath and knew that he didn't have to worry about that for the next year. And it was, going to be able to just do what he did. And he busted his ass. He worked his ass off, not only on his swing, but on his body. He doesn't look nearly. Yeah, he doesn't look near. You saw yesterday, like his neck looked lean, right?
Very lean.
He looks so much better. And Sean Manaea said it when Pete was still a free agent, and I interviewed Manaea down in spring training. I talked to him. I was like, "So you're working out with Pete every day?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He was you knew he was an animal, but like he's really gone into it. And we say it's a cliche. Oh, I'm in the best shape of my life every spring training. No, this guy really came into camp in the best shape of his life, and he's one of those guys that he doesn't come out of the lineup. Right? He wants to play 162, and he goes out there, as grueling as it may be, and he gives you everything he has, and it's been great to see it, and the fans are happy for him. The ownership group is happy for him, because if he's succeeding, then the Mets are succeeding.
No question about it. The Mets open up a series against the Washington Nationals. Rain in the forecast today, but you're going to get Griffin Canning on the mound. And for the Yankee fan, it's a Max Fried day. So today is a day as they begin a series out in Kansas City, as the Yankees dropped 2 of 3 over the weekend against Boston. And we know the AL stinks, but Fried is brilliant. Where would this Yankee team be without Max Fried and without the brilliance of Aaron Judge? They'd be really bad, just like a lot of teams in the American League. They'd be really, really bad. But Fried is really good. Outside of that, blip on the screen that start against the Los Angeles Dodgers, where he got touched up late in that game, in that start, Figgy. Fried has been worth his weight in gold for this organization, and for Blake and for Boone and for Cashman. There's no doubt he gets the ball tonight as they open up his series against the Royals.
Yeah, this guy wasn't a flash in the pan. He didn't just have 1 or 2 good years. This guy was as solid as a left-handed pitcher in all of baseball. And he played in a major market in Atlanta and able to, pressure playoff type caliber baseball all the way through, be that ace of the staff. And it was always very quiet. It was just, he's just Max Fried. And then you get him over here in New York, and I'm like, he throws 98 miles an hour? What the? Is he got the slow, big curveball. He's got everything that you could possibly want. And you sat there while he was in Atlanta, and you're like, yeah, he's a nice pitcher, but he's no Carlos Rodon. Rodon, throws Ched, and he's fiery, and he's this, and now you're like, could you be more like Max Fried? Could you just be able to be as consistent as Max Fried? Keep a level head, not wither in the big moment, where the big moment shouldn't be happening in June against the Red Sox, those kinds of things. And so you look at Max Fried, and he got the most lucrative contract for a left-handed pitcher of all time. And before that, it was Rodon. And you're like looking at the contrast in the two, and you're like, this is what an ace is supposed to look like.
He does, and he gets the ball tonight out in Kansas City. This has been Figgie the Moose. Marc, Malusis, Nelson, Figueroa will continue to follow the kids' storyline. Obviously, the Mets, red hot, best team in the National League, one of the best teams in all of Major League Baseball. And the Yankees don't have to be great now. You hope for the best. Cross the fingers that they're great late come October. But they are not by far a great baseball team right now. Make sure to check us out each and every night. Sports Nation Nightly, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Pix 11. Have yourself a wonderful Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This has been Figgie and the Moose right here on Pix 11 Plus.